I just have to say that when you sort of are struggling with what you want to do in life, you really should lean into prayer or faith or anything
Yeah.
like that to kind of determine where you go next. So
Yeah.
I did pray about it and like for months didn't really hear anything, was kind of like, okay, I'm going to stop this. It's just too much work. Let me focus
Yeah.
on my full-time gig at Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
But that's when God acts and that's when things changed for me. So, and that's
Yep.
how I met you and all
Yeah.
you're doing. So
Yeah.
let's hear about your community because you inspire me so much, but it's more than just your community, it's your story. I mean, that's essentially where you started, correct?
Thank you. Yeah. And no, and I totally agree with you. Exactly like what you just said. When you are really looking for the next step, when you're looking for your calling, when you're looking for your purpose, God will show up and he'll be like, this is exactly where you need to be.
Hey guys, we are super excited to be here to the Abundant Hope podcast. I am Kate Glaser, the one of the hosts of this amazing podcast, and I'm here with my amazing friend Sarah. Sarah, I'll let you take that away.
Yes. Hi. I am just so excited to get to do this with you, to just have a platform where we can share inspiring stories and just encourage each other with, what we've walked through and share our stories, and also just have a platform to just highlight other people that have been through some really tough times and are now using those stories to actually champion and encourage other people. So I'm just so grateful that I get to do this with you. I'm so excited.
And I love the fact that like we have not met in person. So like this is
Yeah.
so crazy to me that we are coming to you. We have very similar morals and values and how we view the world and how we want to encourage others and make the world a better place, but we have not even met in person. So I think that either you come to Buffalo, I go to Tennessee, we'll figure it out, but
I
I just
know.
love I love that social media brought us together, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's the beauty of social media. I think just especially so naturally, like both of us doing what we love, we are able to just we connected. And I love that. And I think even like to our point, like our hope for this podcast, Abundant Hope, some people look at social media and it's like this can really be a place of comparison or, just a lot of overwhelm, a lot of noise, but actually you can use those stories. You can use your platform to inspire and encourage. And when you do that, you will become aligned with other people who are doing the same thing, which is even more encouraging to know there's other people out there that just want to make the best of a situation. So I love what
I
you've done
know.
with your platform and to have your platform highlight so many incredible stories. And I love that, yeah, just through me sharing my story, we've been able to connect. And now we're able to like put a face to the name and the founder of Hope
I
Rises. And
know,
I'm just
right?
like so excited to get to know you better and your story and for everybody to hear your story, because you've done so much good with that platform. It's been incredible.
Yeah, and you too, Sarah. And I think that we should probably talk about our platforms because we are
Yeah.
doing so much separately on our
Yeah.
own, just kind of
Yeah.
trying to make the world a better place. Like we had talked about, we're trying to reach as many people as we can. But obviously, this Abundant Hope podcast brought us together. So,
Yeah.
a little bit more about Hope Rises, if you don't mind me
Yes.
kind of throwing that out
Please
there, and then we'll get
share.
into
I'm
your
like, tell us all.
community.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so we are originated out of Buffalo, New York. We started in 2017. It was really like my baby, my brainchild to kind of, start this really good news platform. I actually
Yeah.
started as a TV journalist when I was 21 years old, right out of college. I went into TV journalism.
Wow.
Obviously covered some really incredible stories, but also really heart-wrenching stories. A
Yeah.
lot of crime, a lot of breaking news. So
Yeah.
I saw the worst of the worst, really. And so I wanted to, when I left the news business, go into just, uplifting sort of career path. So I
Yeah.
actually worked at Make-A-Wish Foundation for a number of years, and I was so grateful to do that. And in the meantime, I started Hope Rises as a good news platform.
Yeah.
Something I love doing is storytelling and being able to use my talent for storytelling to be able to highlight some of these amazing people across the world. And we started locally, initially, and then we were like, why are we limiting ourselves? Let's
Yeah.
expand this across the globe and really highlight people all over the world. So
Yeah.
since 2017, we've grown exponentially. We are still trying to grow our platform. Obviously, a podcast like this is going to even help us more. We get to
Yeah.
meet incredible people like you who are
Mhm.
just huge influences on the social media realm and just being able to bring all of that together and really highlight people that are just ordinary people doing
Yeah.
extraordinary things, right?
Yeah.
So, you can find us on all the social media platforms, hoperisesnews.com. But the one powerful thing I will say is just the amount of people we've been able to help. So initially we started as this good news blog and we're just telling good stories, but we've been able to raise about $200,000 for different
Whoa.
causes, individuals,
That's
things like that.
incredible.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is that we've shifted our mission statement a little bit, but it's been so great to see how, and I will call out God for this because I actually wanted to stop Hope Rises. I was
Mm.
putting in so much work. I
Yeah.
didn't get paid for doing Hope Rises. I was running a
Yeah.
full time job. I'm a mom of three kids.
Yeah.
So it was just a ton of work on myself. And selfishly, I just said, I
Yeah.
can't do it anymore. And, I prayed about it for a long, long time. This was about a year ago, and we were still big. We were big on Facebook, but we just were not growing in the way that we should be growing. And we had a viral video that this past October put us on a whole different level on Instagram and on our
Yeah.
social media presence. So, I just have to say that when you sort of are struggling with what you want to do in life, you really should lean into prayer
Yes.
or faith or anything
Yeah.
like that to kind of determine where you go next. So
Yeah.
I did pray about it and like for months didn't really hear anything, was kind of like, okay, I'm going to stop this. It's just too much work. Let me focus
Yeah.
on my full-time gig at Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
But that's when God acts and that's when things change for me. So, and that's
Yep.
how I met you and all you're
Yeah.
doing. So
Yeah.
let's hear about your community because you inspire me so much, but it's more than just your community, it's your story. I mean, that's essentially where you started, correct?
Thank you. Yeah. And no, and I totally agree with you. Exactly like what you just said. When you are really looking for the next step, when you're looking for your calling, when you're looking for your purpose, God will show up and he'll be like, this is exactly where you need to be, And just really just he's so good to just show up for you. And you were already taking action. And that's honestly like so often what holds us back is just the questions of what do I do next? And you just started, and you just started and you just poured your heart and soul into this. And same thing with me. It's like God just called me to just share my story. And through that, so I in the last 2 years have gotten divorced, moved to Nashville from Fort Lauderdale, found out I moved in with a roommate that I met on Instagram who ended up being awesome. But a month after I moved in with her, about 2 months after I signed my divorce paperwork, I found out that I was 6 months pregnant with my ex-husband's child. And all of this happened in the span of a year. And so after giving
Wow.
birth and kind of looking back at 2020 and kind of 2020 was hard for everybody, but like
Very hard, very
that was
hard.
the year that my life literally turned upside down and so much change. And I'm looking back on the past and it's so big and so heavy. And it's kind of like exactly like what you said, which is I love you. I love your story. It's like I can choose to stay here and say, like, this is hard. What do I do with this? Or you can
Mhm.
ask the Lord to open up doors for you to use that and move forward and actually bless other people and encourage other people. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what he did. So he's just like, share what I've done in your life. And so I made a video about being a divorced single mom on TikTok and shared it just to be like, your best days are still yet to come. Don't stay here.
Mhm.
Don't let this hold you back. And through that, I just got an outpouring of women that were like, how are you so confident? How are you so encouraged, empowered? Like, I am just really having a hard time. And that is so valid. That is so valid. Like you were saying, selfishly, this is a lot. As a mom, every day, I'm like, being a mom is a full time job. Being a mom is a full time job. Like that
It's
is our
like
number one
constant, right?
priority.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Mhm.
everything else truly is extra. And so when you recognize that your energy is being pulled somewhere else, it is hard to say, like, what do I do? This is my priority. What else do I do? But God's so
Mhm.
good to just say, this is how you use your story. And so I started a ministry and just lead a daily Bible study where people can come and just be poured into. And I'm just sharing a word of encouragement, a word of hope, a word of just, just sharing what God's doing in my life. And every single day, someone is saying, this is confirming exactly what God's already showing me. This is exactly what I needed to hear today. And so it's just so crazy that even though we might be in totally different walks of life, what
Mhm.
the Lord wants to do in all of us is actually so relevant and is so encouraging to everybody. Even if you feel like, well, I'm not a single mom, so I can't, relate, or I'm not, but actually
Sure.
we're all so, united on just the fact that we want to live a life of impact. So I love that that's what brought us together because we're
I love
two
it
totally different
too.
seasons of life,
I
but,
know.
we
And I
get to do what
find
we
so
love.
much like, as a mom of 3, I find so much encouragement in the fact that you are raising Harv on your own. I mean, of course, you have a very strong support system, especially with Enaka. So, explain Enaka's story or part of this story because to me, when you were telling me this story just now, I thought about my experience delivering my twins and then
Mhm.
obviously delivering Isla, who is my
Yeah.
baby girl, who's a year
Yeah.
old. And the fact that I had my husband there, but I felt very comfortable with him. I had been married
Mhm.
to him for a couple of years. Obviously,
Mhm.
he's been my best friend for so long.
Mhm.
I can't even imagine being in a delivery room with someone you kind of just met and
Mhm.
you're sort of having her be your support system. So what is it
Yeah.
about Anaka that really made you comfortable or that you could trust her to kind of be with you in this most important moment? Like I'd love to like lean into that a little bit just to hear from your perspective.
Yeah. No, girl, it is literally it's all I can say is that it's the Holy Spirit. Like the way that she selflessly I mean, I when I told her I was pregnant, I was like, "Oh, like she she's gonna go find someplace else to live." Like,
Mhm.
I can't put this on her. This is a lot. I don't expect anybody else to put up with this. This is my mess. Do I go back home? Like what? And she was just such a rock and exactly like what you just said. So she actually ended up being my doula through the rest of my pregnancy. She's never been a doula before, but
I
she
was gonna
loves to
say, was
Google.
she a doula?
No.
Wow.
She's just like very educated. She's just an incredible human being and is always open to learning and serving. And she cut Harv's umbilical cord when he was
My
born. Like I could not have
gosh.
done this without her, but that is truly the power of just leaning into the Lord and operating in a way that doesn't make sense to you and doesn't even look like it's going to be the best thing for you, but God
Mhm.
always has a bigger and better plan, and I am just so grateful for her and her selflessness, but she would probably say the same thing, it's just it wouldn't have made sense. It wouldn't have been what either of us chose, but the way that it grew us, the way that it um played out is nothing short of just a miracle, and that's what the Lord does. So it's just like crazy.
And it's crazy to me too that your simple story, you being so transparent, obviously impacted so many women. So when did your video sit for a while, or did it go viral right away? Like, how did that process happen as well?
Yeah, it's kind of actually been like I put out that first video and I think it got a couple 100,000 views and I was like, "Whoa." Like I wasn't expecting anything, but I couldn't deny this feeling that I felt the Lord just telling me to just share. And that's another thing too is like I feel like we always want to wait until we're outside of the season to be like, "Look at what God did back there." But the reality is as long as we're waiting until things get better, until we get bigger, until we get more successful to well, we're always going to be waiting, right? And so
Mhm.
so that got a couple 100,000 views, and that's what got the responses, and I was like, whoa, this is actually a big need. And so I just started showing my life just every day, and it was when I showed Enaka and Harv that people were like, what? Like this is just like the epitome of what love should be, like a friend of a single mom who stepped up and been there. They don't look the same at all. They don't
Yeah.
like, but Harv is absolutely obsessed with this woman and the love that she had. And it just shows, like the love and just this selflessness. It shows. And so those went, I think those videos have like 22 million views or something
Oh my gosh.
crazy.
But it's
And
so deserving of, like, exactly how she stepped up, and that's what Hope Rises. I feel like it's such
yes,
a perfect example of what Hope Rises is. There was, like, no hope, right? There was
yes,
limited hope in your situation where you probably felt very scared, you felt very anxious, you felt nervous, you didn't wanna go
yeah,
back home.
yeah,
There were things going on in your personal life, but you decided to just continue on your path,
yeah,
trust in the Lord and trust in yourself. And ultimately, look at
yeah,
you now and how your story is impacting. I think that we are brought through the ringer sometimes so that we
yeah,
can come out on the other side and tell our story and be able
yeah,
to help people all across the world. And I think that's
yeah.
why we go through so much heartache, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you have your own story. I know that you've
Yeah.
done so many incredible things, but tell me about like you were one of the things, just one of the small things is like you were featured on New York Times, I think, for having COVID in the hospital with Isla, which first of all, our babies, they also have red hair, which is
I
so
know, it's so
funny.
sweet.
We have a little like
They're total carrot tops, like, I don't know, is
exactly.
does Harv have, like, bright blue eyes? Because Isla has, like, blue eyes, and we don't have
Yes.
anyone in our family with, like, blue eyes. It's
Me
out of
either. I
nowhere.
have green eyes, green eyes,
Yes, so
red
do
hair.
I.
So
Yep,
funny. That is
so
so
do
funny.
I. I know,
But
and
that
my
was a
husband
whole
has
thing for
brown eyes.
you.
I know, yeah. I mean, I think that that was a small, minor sort of blip in our journey, but obviously because of the time that we were in, COVID was really, really hard at that point when I was delivering Isla. It was still 2020. It was
Yeah.
fresh into, I found out I was pregnant in December, and
Yeah.
then, COVID hit in March. So obviously I was in the pandemic. I was
Yeah.
pregnant. I wasn't going anywhere. Luckily, I have my twins to keep me busy and my work,
Yeah.
so things went by really, really fast. I actually had a really, really hard pregnancy with her because I had hyperemesis gravidarum, which is something that many women don't even know about, but it's
Yeah.
basically the Princess Kate sickness where she had it in every single pregnancy she had, and she's made it famous. But you basically are hospitalized your entire pregnancy
No
because you
way.
can't keep anything down. Like
Oh
it's
my
to the point where you
gosh.
get no nutrients. You have to have,
Yeah.
your liquid come through IV. So it was just terrible. So when the pandemic hit, I was just getting over that. Luckily, mine did not last my entire pregnancy.
Praise
And
God.
then I get COVID. Actually, I found out I was COVID positive the day after my birthday. And
No
then
way.
I was set to deliver her a week later. So very scary. I remember when I, went into the hospital, I was not feeling well. I had like 102 temperature. I called my doctor and she said, "Well, that's not normal for end of pregnancy." So she said, "Why don't you go get a COVID test just to see, and at that point when you walk into a hospital, everyone is in like the
Yeah.
over garb. It's not like
Yeah.
today where people are not really wearing masks. Things are a little
Right.
bit settled down." So this was the thick of the pandemic and I
Yeah.
went in and I got my COVID test and they came down to get me in, like, full garb in the waiting room. I
Oh,
was in the waiting room for, like, an hour waiting, and I knew at that point
wow. Yeah.
I had COVID. So, I was just told to go, home and isolate and to keep her inside. There was talk of, like, maybe having a C-section just to see,
Yeah.
get her out and make sure she's okay, but at that point, and I still think they take this stance that you're safer on the inside, the babies are actually
Yeah.
protected in the womb. So,
Yeah.
the idea was to have me be on bed rest until, I went into labor, naturally. So,
Whoa.
there were a couple things that flew around. There was talk that my husband couldn't be in the room with me, that I couldn't have anyone in the room with me, just
Yeah.
deliver on my own. I had a good friend reach out and say, "Can I be your doula? We can do, we can have you give birth at home." And that was just not an
Yeah.
option. That's
No.
just not my style. So that
Yeah.
was fine. But I appreciate her reaching out because it was very, very
Yeah.
sweet. She's actually a
Yeah.
doula in Albany. So, I had a lot of really kind offers, but I said, "You know what? I'll do the best I can. I'm going to
Yeah.
just pray about it and just keep an open mind and be
Yeah.
positive." Luckily, my husband tested negative. He was allowed in the room and she came a week late. So everything
No
worked out
way.
wonderfully and she was born COVID. I mean, she tested negative, but she was definitely sick. So, I assume she had COVID, and she was sick for about a week, and then she was fine, and then I was fine.
Oh,
So, mine was just a small blip, but I think it gives you, you know, it just helps you kind of tell that story eventually. Like,
yeah,
we have a story to tell in the future that,
yeah,
you know, 50 years or, you know, down the line when I have grandchildren and when I'm talking to them about COVID and the pandemic, I can say, this was my story. I was in the
yeah,
middle of the pandemic, pregnant, had
yeah,
to deliver a baby. So the New York Times actually featured my story because it was a little bit different, you know, me
yeah,
contracting COVID so late in the pregnancy
yeah.
and then having to deliver COVID positive. So just interesting, right? I mean, we all have a
That's
really
insane.
interesting story to tell, and we've all gone through some really tough challenges, but it's how you come out on top or how you
Yes,
come out on the other side of things that really you know, kind of determines the kind of person you are. So that's what really drew me to your
totally.
story.
Guys, so when we first decided to do a podcast, the whole technicality of everything seemed daunting, to say the least.
Then we reached out to our friends at Social Chameleon. They helped us get launched, create our trailer, edit our intros and our outros.
All the details that goes into the behind the scenes to actually get the podcast out. You guys, they do it all for us, and it's been a breeze.
And then get this, they write all of your show notes and even publish each episode for you.
This has allowed us to get our podcast out onto all the most popular platforms, and I'm just so grateful to Social Chameleon for being able to make this happen for us.
And now we can focus on what we do best, and that's bringing you inspiring content, and they handle the rest.
With Social Chameleon, it's podcasting done for you. So go check them out at socialchameleon.us. Let them know that we sent you. And if you start a podcast using them, definitely let us know and we'll tune in and give you all the support and love.
And the one question I had for you that I didn't get to ask you, and I don't know if it's too personal, but I will ask because why not be
Yeah.
honest in the podcast? Do you ever, you know, do you know if your ex-husband is paying attention to all the success that you have? Or is there anything that like you can sort of give advice to women who, you know, have walked away or have said, well, I'm not going to stand for a marriage that is not healthy and
Yeah.
going through divorce? I mean, how do you, I guess that's a two-part question is, you know, you're doing so much, you're raising a son on your own, have you heard from him? And is there what do you give advice to these women that are
Yeah.
going through divorce? Like, how do they come out on top when, you know, going through a divorce at our age is
Yeah.
definitely hard. I mean, divorce is hard at any age, but
Yeah.
being a young mom, I mean, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah. No, totally. And something I actually read a book right after somebody anonymously sent it to me. I have no idea who it was. They just said, from a friend that loves you. But it was about single motherhood, and basically it was a great book called the Unseen Companion, I think it was. And the takeaway that I got from that book was that the most crippling thing for a single mom is the victim mindset, and that this has happened to you. And because of this person that walked away, your life is going to be more difficult and it's going to hold you back. And the victim mindset can cripple all of us. And even as I was posting on TikTok and sharing my stories, people asked all the time, like, where is he? Like, we're going to find him, we're going to get him. And you know what? I think that the best thing that we can do for ourselves when we're walking away from, which I just want it to be put out there, I did not leave him. He made the decision to end our marriage. Of course,
Mhm.
any woman, especially a mom, uh, even if it's a terrible situation, it's still like the ultimate desire
Hurtful.
to have a family together, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
But I, at the time when he said, I decided I'm done, I said, okay. And I could it's always easier to hold on to what's comfortable and what we know, even when we know that walking away is better, right? And so I had to make a few decisions. I had to make the decision that I wasn't going to act or make decisions in spite of somebody and to prove myself to somebody who has already shown me that they don't care. And I
Mhm.
think it's so easy for us as women to try to do things to, prove ourselves to a man, or as people who had parents that maybe weren't the most supportive, to constantly be doing things to earn validation or attention, or and it's so easy, despite no matter what your circumstance, no matter what your background looks like, no matter what your past has been, it's so easy for us to say, I want to make right what was wrong, or I want to prove myself to the person that wronged me or the person that doubted me. And you have
It's just
to,
human nature in a way to wanna do that, but I love that you're saying, like, don't
yes,
focus on that.
and it's not about anybody else. It's about you. Like, forgiveness sets you free. Leaving the past behind you sets you free. Moving on without an apology sets you free. And I think you have to. That is the only way to grow. And so I have no idea, what's, if they're seeing things, if they're but I haven't always made a point again, like I don't hold anything against him. We all, if anything, I've responded to comments, just saying we all back down from opportunities that scare us, that we think that we're not good enough for. And
Mhm.
ultimately, I believe that that's what happened here. Anybody who steps down from being a parent, anybody that steps down from being a spouse and acts out and is unkind and is hateful and evil and whatever, ultimately is just not wanting to choose to change, to step up and be better,
Mhm.
So anyway, so I have no idea what he's thinking, but or what's going on over there, but I think that's also my advice too, is to not do things in spite of other people, to prove yourself to other people, because if you do that, you're constantly looking back instead of
Of
looking
course,
forward.
and really focusing on yourself, and you've built this amazing community through Abundantly More and all you're doing, and you're encouraging women who I'm sure have walked through, issues like divorce or issues like someone leaving them or abandonment or anything like that. So, I love that you're not relying on another man to
Mhm.
validate you, but you're relying on the fact that you're helping other
Mhm.
women or other, I'm not sure if your community is open to males, but females that are
Yeah.
walking through their own life journeys, and you're not going to, okay, I need to meet someone and get married and have this traditional life. Like, you're doing you until something is brought to you, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's another thing too. And God is so good. Like, he really is the ultimate companion, but also, this in your life. Like, if you're looking for something else to fill a void and make you happy, you will always be searching for something to fill a void and make you happy. Right. It's like, that marriage isn't easy. That motherhood
Mhm.
isn't easy, but there are so many women out there that are saying, if I just had a husband, this would be easier, or this would make me happier. If I just had children, this would make me happier. This would make me feel more fulfilled. And every single season of life has its challenges and has opportunities that the Lord gives us to work on us and to make us better and to encourage other people in those seasons. And so
Mhm.
that is why I recognize the power of community, and why I created the community on the foundation of, we're just here to encourage other people through the journey, because that's what we need. We don't need a better job or a different job or a husband or a different husband, or do we have those
Mhm.
desires, and are they beautiful and good? Absolutely. I believe that the Lord gave us the desires of our heart, and he rejoices to give them to us, but you need to make the best of the season that you're in and persevere, in order to not be looking at the things that God brings you and say, this is going to make me more content, this is going to
Mhm.
make me more fulfilled, you
Yeah.
know
Gosh, you need to be on a stage and preaching. Have you ever thought of that? Is any of you I feel like you're so, like, animated when you talk to, like, for those listening, obviously, you can't see Sarah using her hands in her animation, but I'm like, I would literally sit in a church pew and listen to you talk. But it's just miraculous to see how you've come from this point to this point in only 2 years, Sarah. I mean, you should be so proud of yourself, and I follow you on social media, obviously, and we both go through those, trials and tribulations of being a mom and
Mhm.
being exhausted and not being able to have time to clean your house and things like that. But
Yeah.
I guess the thing that motivates us, both of us, is the fact that
Yeah.
we have these communities that people rely on us to kind of be their, their inspiration,
Yeah.
and they're inspiring us as well. So I think that's what keeps me going when I feel like I just can't. I'm so tired. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Being a mom in itself is a full-time gig, and then
Yeah.
having these huge communities that rely on us. It's a lot, right? But I mean,
It
just
is a
kind of
lot.
going, taking it day by day, and anyone who's listening who's just experiencing that too, whether they take care of kids full time, and that's its own, craziness, or if they don't have kids, but you have a full time gig and you're so exhausted. I think the biggest thing I can say, and I'm sure Sarah, you agree, is the fact that just keep going, take
Yeah.
every day step by step and just lead with kindness, because
Yeah.
ultimately that's gonna get you where you need to go, right?
Yeah, and that's been so true. Like for you, like went from thinking about giving up, which again is so valid and so like,
Mhm.
and it would not really be wisdom to just be like, no matter what, right. It's like there has to be a point where it's like, am I going to stop or am I going to go full force? And now you
Yeah.
literally have been able to leave your full time job, which has
I
opened
know.
so many other opportunities for you. You're speaking on stages. You've got a feature featuring featuring Hope Rises on like you just blew the lid off this thing just
Yeah.
by your perseverance. How has that been for you with making the
Well,
decision to leave and then now like all these other opportunities that have opened up?
yeah.
How are you dealing with all of that?
I think the biggest thing I can say is that I will always have a humble attitude, because you know what?
Yeah.
I pray every day, and I'm so glad that we can be open about our faith, and the fact that I pray every day to be the best person I can be and let
Yeah.
people see him through my work.
Yep.
So I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is I was doing things so like, okay, I don't need like my faith. I don't need this. I
Mhm.
got this. Like, this is what I'm
Mhm.
doing. And I really changed my approach to be like,
Yeah.
I am here for one purpose, and my
Yep.
purpose is to bring hope to the world. Like, that's
Yep.
obviously that's my talent. That's my gift. That's where my
Yes.
heart is. Not everyone
Yeah.
has the heart for that. So
Yep.
I know that comes naturally to me. So I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be in this
Mhm.
seat where I can drive people forward to just choose kindness or choose hope or
Yeah.
be the light for them, encourage my community to help someone who is in
Yes.
need. We've all been in that position. And um, I don't know. I try to approach things with a humble attitude, because I will never get too big where I don't think back and say, I'm here for this purpose, and it's not
Yeah.
about me at all. It's about hope, and it's about faith, and it's about God, and it's about him bringing me to this point. So
Yeah.
drive me forward. Whatever you intend for me,
Yeah.
you make happen, and I will listen. So that's one thing that, when I was praying about, okay, should I stop Hope Rises? And it was evidently clear. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't even, I've never felt a more direct sort of direction. Like,
Yep.
this is what you're doing,
Yep.
trust in it,
Yep.
and I will make the way, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
I will say that over and over. And even if you're not, religious, if you're not listening to this podcast, I think the biggest thing is leaning into being a good person. My faith and prayer really brought me into where I am today, and I will 100% say that's what it was.
Mhm.
But for those who don't follow that path, maybe they're on a different path, just really choosing to lead with kindness and with heart and doing your part to be a better person. That ultimately is something that is so good. So I guess that's my answer to that
Yeah,
question.
no, I love
I
that.
think I'm just so grateful, and never did I expect my audience to go from like 3,000 to 300,000. And look at you,
Yeah.
you went from, having probably not as many followers on TikTok to now you're over 500,000. And I
Yeah.
think that's because your story was so powerful, but because of how you reacted to your story and how you are so transparent and honest. And I think people really resonate with that, and they want to latch on to something where someone can just be, I'm a normal person. I'm doing the best I
Yeah.
can. That's
Yeah.
why I feel I latched on to you as well, and just your story and how transparent you are. And the fact that, Enaka and Harv, we've gone through so much, especially with racial injustice. And so many
Yeah.
things were brought to light in 2020. And the fact
Yeah.
that it's not about the way you look, but it's
Yeah.
about the way you love. And that's what I
Yeah.
love about Enaka and Harb and your story is that you guys were all strangers brought together. Well, obviously you and Harb are not strangers, but you
Yeah.
were brought
Yeah.
together through the common theme of love, and that
Yeah.
that's brought you to where you are today. And that's why I'm so excited about this podcast because we're going to be featuring
Yes.
some really powerful, interviews and guests and things like that. So our first podcast obviously is just Sarah and I talking about our
Yeah.
story and what brought us together, but we're going to have some really beautiful guests and people who've gone through the worst of the worst. I mean,
Yeah.
things that Sarah and I haven't even experienced in life, but how they've come out on top and how they've chosen hope and faith and just being a good person and leading with kindness. So we're super
Yeah.
excited for the guests that we have coming up, and we're going to be every week, launching a new podcast. And
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled because it's going to open the doors for so much more. And we don't even know what that is yet, but we're going
I
to just
know.
let it come
We're
to
just
us
doing
and
it.
see what happens.
Yeah. And I think that's like set like that is where how that's the foundation for everything we do and have done so far, right? It's like you just start. We had to be encouraged from somebody somewhere. We had to have gotten the impact. We had to have made it through something. And then we just keep the ball rolling. And for your page to have blown up how it did, and for my page to have blown up how it did, we didn't have these strategies for, we're gonna make it to the top. You
Yeah.
just kind of start,
Yes.
and for
Mhm.
anybody listening that's like, how do I get these big platforms? You just start. And when your
Yep.
heart is to just, like you said, love love and show kindness and just share your story, even when in your mind you could be so much further along, when your heart is to just give back and your heart is to just encourage somebody and share your story, even if it empowers one person with the heart feeling like that's worth it, that's where you start. And so if this podcast or anything that we've done can encourage you to just start, and now it's a ripple effect with you now turning around and getting to encourage somebody else, like that is, I don't know about you, Kate, but for me, that's the like most incredible feeling for somebody to share your story and or share their story with you and be like, you encouraged me to do this, or like, this is how, I'm being a light in my life, but I wouldn't have even thought about taking this step had it not been for you. Like that's
I
what it's
know.
all about.
And obviously, we were brought together for a very good reason. So I'm excited for us to lean into that and for people to start following us. So we're excited for the next couple of episodes.
Yeah.
We've talked for a while here, but we're going to be, coming at you each week with new episodes and super grateful. Obviously, we just are grateful for the start of this and for Mike, his
Yes.
social chameleon. And he's actually our sponsor of this podcast, and for him
Yeah.
to encourage us and to keep us on track. So we have a lot of really cool things coming up. We're so excited to bring that to you guys. But we are going to probably end this podcast. Anything you want to say
Yeah.
before we end, Sarah?
No, I'm just so grateful again. Like, if you can just pull from our hope and our stories to get the confidence that you need to share your story, like that is what we're here for. And like
Mhm.
Kate said, moving forward, we're going to be highlighting other people and their stories. And so stay tuned in. You never know who has walked through a similar path that you have. And that's just the best thing, I think, is just to learn from other people that have walked through what you've walked through. And that really just encourages you to show you that if they've done it, you can do it too. So we would love to connect with you personally too on our Instagrams. We're on Instagram, TikTok. So we'll put all of our information in the show notes below so we can connect with you if you want to join my Bible study or send your submission to Kate so that your act of kindness or your act of hope can be shared and encourage other people. We would absolutely love the opportunity to connect with you and just highlight you and your story on our platforms as well. So thank you everyone who's listening, and I'm really excited, like you said, to see where this goes. We're kind of just leaving it open-handed and letting the Lord just guide us as he has, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate your support, and we look forward to more of these Abundant Hope podcasts.
Yay! Bye guys. Thank you so much for listening and allowing us to inspire you today.
We want to get to know you and learn why you need abundant hope in your life.
follow us and engage with us on social media. You guys, we would love to connect with you. And you can start by finding us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok by searching Abundantly More
And also Hope Rises Network.
We will add all of our social links to the show notes below, and we would love to hear from you. So please come give us a follow, say hey, let us know you heard the podcast, let us know what you want to hear. We would absolutely love to hear from you and connect with you.